13.2 Factoring Trinomials. Alright, so in this lecture video, I'm going to show you how to factor what we so-called the trinomial. So, I got two different type of problem in 13.2. So let me kind of refresh your memory on what a trinomial is, and then we will go through, I will guide you through these 5 steps on how to factor in trinomial. So what is so-called a trinomial is what I call the true trinomial is referring to the last 3 terms of a polynomial, where the exponent got to say 2, 1, 0 power, or it can be the multiples of 2, 1, 0 on the exponent, maybe like a 4, 2, 0, twice as large. Alright, so normally we write trinomial in the form of ax squared plus bx plus c, where a, b, and c are coefficients. Okay, so when we see a polynomial consists of 3 terms, where the exponents is 2, 1, 0, then those are considered as trinomial. So when it comes to factoring trinomial, there is several different techniques. Okay. The technique I'm going to show you, basically, eventually, you would just know what the answer is just by looking at it. When you're thinking through these 5 steps, okay, basically you can actually just simply look at a polynomial and simply write down the answer. All right. So, very first thing, when it comes to factoring trinomial, the very first thing is always try to look for the greatest common factor, if there is one. So, if there is a greatest common factor, factor it out and write what's left inside the parentheses. Then we're going to write 2 parentheses. If there is no greatest common factor, then simply just write 2 parentheses. Alright, so let's try some example. Alright, I got 2, 1, 0 power, so this is a trinomial. Alright, I do not have a greatest common factor between all 3 terms. Between 1, 14, 48, there's nothing I can factor out other than 1, so we don't have to do that. So, alright, x did not repeat between all 3 terms. So this problem, there is no greatest common factor. So if not, I write 2 parentheses. Alright, let's go up. Step number 2. Find all the factors of the first term and the last term. So this technique is basically doing FOIL method backwards. Find all the factor of the first term and the last term. The first term, the coefficient is 1, so that would just be 1 times 1. All the factor of the last term is 48, so I write down all the factor of 48, which is 1 times 48. 2 go into 48 24 times. 3 go into 48 16 times. 4 go into 48 12 times. 5 cannot go into 48. 6 go into 48 8 times. 7 cannot go into 48. 8 can go into 48, but I already wrote down my number 8, so that's the end of it. Alright, so that's step number 2. Write all the factors of the first term and the last term. Now remember, now the first term, okay, of my trinomial is x squared. So the factors of x squared got to go at the beginning of the 2 parentheses. Okay, right now I'm writing the number 1, but at the end of the problem I will fill back in with the with my variable x. So the only way I can get an x squared here is if I have 1x and 1x to get 1x squared. So I will write my x in just in a minute. Alright, step number 3, write the factor you just found inside the 2 parentheses accordingly. The factor of the first term, the 1x squared, got to go in the beginning of the 2 parentheses. The factor of the second term, the factors of the last term, should go in the back side of the 2 parentheses. Alright, so the factor of the first term, 1x squared, is 1 and 1, so that goes at the beginning of the 2 parentheses. The factor of the last term, 48, that will go at the back side of 2 parentheses. So starting from the bottom, starting from the very last set we found, right on the back side of 2 parentheses. Now, step number 4, make sure the inner and the outer combined will give you the middle term. i.e. multiply the two outer numbers and the two inner numbers and then combine them. So this is where the FOIL method backwards comes in. So to make sure my inner and outer combined, okay, remember now inner and outer combined is how we did the FOIL method to end up with the middle term on a trinomial before. So we're just doing this kind of backwards a little bit. We just reverse our procedure. Okay, so right now my outer 1 times 8 is gonna be 8. My inner 6 times 1 is gonna be 6. All right, a and 6 combined, okay, a and 6 combined can give me a 14 if we add them. Okay, combine means add or subtract. So if I add the 8 and 16, it can give me 14. If I subtract the 8 and if I add the 8 and the 6, it give me 14. If I subtract the 8 and the 6, it give me a 2. But so that's the reason why I simply just say the word combine. When I combine them, I can get 14 if I add. So step number 5 is the key. Assign the sign for the factors inside the two parentheses. How do we assign the signs? If the last term of a trinomial is positive, which is what I got right now, that means number 1, the inner and the outer must add to get to the middle term, which is what I just did. 8 plus 6 will give me my middle term if I add them. So the last sign confirm how I should end up, what I need to do to get to the middle term, which is by adding. Number 2, the choices for the signs for the two parentheses is either positive or negative. So it depends on the middle term. If the middle term is positive, assign positive and positive for the two parentheses. If the middle term is negative, then assign both negative. So the last signs of the trinomial tells me I should add the inner and outer to get 14 in the middle. And it also tells me the choice for the signs are positive or negative. Okay, so it depends on my middle term. Since my middle term got to be a positive 14, that means both of these parentheses got to have positive. Okay, write my x back in for the first as the factor of the first term. Then my answer, x plus 6 times x plus 8. That's how we factor the trinomial. Because now the first thing I do, if I want to forward it out, x times x is x squared. The last thing I do, positive 6 times positive 8 is positive 48. Inner, my outer is positive 8. Inner is positive 6. That's how I end up with positive 14x in the middle. Okay, so some students can tell what the answer is just simply by looking at this. All right, I went through all 5 steps with you because when it comes to factoring any kind of trinomial, we just simply follow the 5 steps. Okay, let's try it again. After a while, you will not even need to write all the stuff out. You can just look at it to write the answer. All right, let's try this one. Okay, this is a trinomial again, 210 powered, where I have no greatest common factor. So we write 2 parentheses right away. So that's step number 1. Step number 2, find all the factors of the first term and the last term. So first term is 1x squared, so that's 1 times 1. Last term is 30, which is 1 times 30. Well, to save some time, most of the time I like to ask students, give me 2 numbers that are closest together, multiply is 30. That got to be 5 times 6. Okay, and normally that should be my very last set I will use. Okay, I have other sets of factors that will multiply together will be 30. Okay, but the closest one, the 2 factors that are closest together should always be the last set, and that should always be the first one you use. Why? I don't know why. 80% of the time, the last set always turn out to be the one we need. All right, step number 3. Write the factor we just found inside the 2 parentheses accordingly. The factor of the first term go at the beginning of the 2 parentheses. The factor of the last term, which I'm going to use 5 and 6, go on the back side of the 2 parentheses. All Right, step number 4. Let's make sure my inner and outer combined can give me my middle term. So right now my outer 1 times 6 is 6. Inner 5 times 1 is 5. My outer is 6, my inner is 5. 6 and 5 combined can give me an 11 if I add. So the last sign tells me how I need to get to my middle term. So step number 5, if the last term of the trinomial is positive, the inner and outer must add, which is what I just demonstrated. The choice for the sign is either positive, positive, or negative, negative. So it depends on the middle term. So right now my middle term is negative 11. So that means the two signs in the parentheses got to be both negative. Alright, well I'm done. Put my variable back in, and that's my answer. X minus 5 times x minus 6. Alright, let's try again, okay? Alright, trinomial, no greatest common factor between the three terms, so 2 parentheses right away. Step number 2, find all the factor of the first term and the last term. So factor of first term is 1 times 1. Factor of the last term 8 is 1 times 8 and 2 times 4. So the technique, the steps I'm taking, I actually do signs at the very end. Okay, always do signs at last, as a last step. Make sure our numbers, okay, are in place for the 2 parentheses before we worry about the signs. Okay, so starting from the bottom, okay, which is the very last set, the factor of the first term go at the beginning 2 parentheses. The factor of the last term 8 go on the back side of 2 parentheses. Step number 4, let's make sure my inner and outer combined can give me my middle term. So my outer 1 times 4 is 4. My inner 2 times 1 is going to be 2. And when I combine 4 and 2, I can get 2, which is my middle term, if I subtract. So here we go. Let's do the signs. Step number 5b. If the last term of the trinomial is negative, number 1, it means the inner and the outer must subtract to get to the middle term. Step number 2, the choice for the sign is a positive and a negative. So if the middle term is positive, assign the positive to the higher of the inner or outer. If the middle term is negative, then assign the negative to the higher of the inner or outer. So let's see what it means. So when the last sign is negative, that tells me my inner and outer must subtract to get to my middle term 2. Again, when the last sign is negative, the choices for the sign is 1 positive, 1 negative. So who gets what? Well, that depends on the middle term. Since the middle term is positive, okay, that means I need to give the plus sign to the higher of the inner and or outer. So that means the positive need to give to the 4. The negative got to give to the 2. Why is that? Because I need more positive than negative to end up with a positive 2 in the middle. All right, because term with different sign I have to subtract. But since I need to end up with a positive answer, I need more positive than negative to end up with a positive 2 in the middle. So that means my outer need to be a positive 4. So that means 1 times what kind of 4 right here? It got to times a positive 4. So that means the other parenthesis is negative. Put my x back in, and that's my answer. X minus 2 times x plus 4. All right, let's try this one. Same way. No greatest common factor between the 3 terms. All right, so 2 parentheses. Find all the factor of the first term and the last term. So 16 is 1 times 16, 2 times 8. The closest one got to be 4 times 4. So starting from the bottom, all right, find all the factor of the first. Write the factor of the first term at the beginning of 2 parentheses. The factor of the last term, okay, right in the back side of 2 parentheses. All right, step number 4. Make sure our inner and outer combined will give me my middle term. So right now, my outer is 1 times 4. My inner is 4 times 1. So 1 times 4 on the outer is 4. The inner, 4 times 1 is 4. 4 and 4 combined, can it give me a 6? No. 4 and 4 combined, add or subtract, will never be 6 in the middle. So what do I do? Well, if my inner and outer cannot give me my middle term, the first thing I do is swap the two backside number. Well, in this case, it made no difference since the two backside number of the parentheses are exactly the same. So that means swapping the two number on the back does not work. When that doesn't work, that means we will use a different set of numbers. So perhaps we can use 2 and 8. And then we try it again. This is where the wording trial and error comes in. And that's the method I'm just doing. Trial and error method. Basically, it's like for your method backwards. Now my outer, 1 times 8 is 8. My inner, 2 times 1 is 2. And 8 and 2 combined can give me a 6 if I subtract. The last sign confirms it. Alright, if the last sign is negative, it means inner and outer must subtract. The choice for the sign is 1 positive, 1 negative. So 1 positive, 1 negative. So who is going to be positive, who is going to be negative, depends on the middle term. Since the middle term is going to be a negative 6, that means I need to give my negative to the higher of the inner and outer. So that means 8 need to be negative, 2 need to be positive. Why? Because I need more negative than positive to subtract to end up with a negative 6 in the middle. So now my outer need to be a negative 8 by having 1 times what kind of 8? Negative 8. So the other sign is positive, put my x back in. Okay, so that's my answer. So normally I will keep my leading term, okay, as much positive as I can. The way how we do the signs here for step number 5 is actually assuming the first term is always positive, okay, in order for this way of signs work out every time. All right, that will conclude this quick lecture video on how to factor trinomial where the leading coefficient is 1. All right, so what happens when the leading coefficient is not 1? We're still going to follow the same 5 steps. Okay, thank you for watching.